tafsir.
Where should I begin when I'm starting at the end? Pursuing the higher aim, learning the meaning of every page. Ooh, where should I begin when I'm starting at the end?
Another addition to your Islamic education, Maqasidic tafsir, healing and governance, the transformative path of Sabah as-Tiwal, written by Dr. Karim Abuzaid. Join Ustada Laila Nasheeba every Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9:30 p.m., streaming all major platforms, channel Sooner Follower.
There's a little lag in South Africa. Yeah, okay, I see it, Sister Amira. You said you got lag, a little lag. Okay, I'm just now screen sharing. A little lag. Okay, this is the picture of the book. This is the Maqasidic Tafsir Volume 3. Tonight we're still in chapter 3.14. We're gonna give the Maqasidic Tafsir of Surah Baqarah. We're gonna speak about the second and the third necessity that this chapter of the Quran speaks about, which is life and progeny. Life and progeny. So we're going to be covering verses 177. We're going to summarize the meaning behind verses 177 and through 283, my sisters. Y'all see it? Oh, you happy I got those brothers on lockdown? Don't worry about it. Yeah, they can't. And if any of them message you, sister, just block them. They can't. You don't have to worry about them taking a microphone in there or you turning on their cameras, because I locked that room down. But if they try to message and be disrespectful, just block them. Inshallah. Yeah, it's just shame that you have to behave that Muslim men behave that way. But that's why, and remember, you can join my Zoom room. Go to www.soonerfollowers.net because I got some warriors. I got Bantu, African warriors that moderate my Zoom room. Anybody come in my Zoom room, they will. I can ban, kick out, terrorize them in my Zoom room. Oh yeah, they ain't gonna come in here with no crazy stuff. Make sure y'all are strapped up. Make sure y'all strap up in my Zoom room. So some of these sisters on this other program are being harassed by those brothers who don't like the fact that they can't talk and speak because Layla got them locked down. So they might come in my Zoom room, strap up. So if you got to deal with a loser, you know what to do. Strap up, sisters. We in jihad mode. Jihad mode. Hello. All right. Okay. All right, so let's get started. That's how you got to be nowadays. Okay, so here we go. Okay, you on there? You can see now? Everybody can see in Sister Amira's room. Okay. All right, so remember, guys, in Islam, we talked about this before in our Hadith class. The preservation of life is of high value in Islam. Human life is of high value. So these verses of Surah Baqarah articulate this principle. And the directives in verses 177 through 283 emphasize the essential practices for the preservation of life, and it emphasizes ethical living and spiritual discipline. And also these verses speak about our social responsibilities. So let's take a look at these verses. Let's start off with verse 177 of Surah Baqarah. And again, I'm just summarizing the meaning of these verses. That's what Dr. Karim Abuzaid does best, in his Maqasidic approach. When you look at verses 177, this verse broadens the horizon of righteousness. It speaks about how genuine piety, and remember, as Muslims, we're supposed to be righteous and good. Genuine righteousness transcends just ritual practices like praying and stuff like that. It goes beyond praying. It also includes being ethical in our behavior. It includes being just in our dealings with each other. For example, here on this internet, you sisters shouldn't have to be subjected to oppression on the internet. You should be able to come here and learn your religion without being harassed or bullied by other Muslims because of your gender. So what you sisters are experiencing from these bullies who call themselves Muslims, that shouldn't happen if these people were righteous. If those were righteous men, they wouldn't be oppressing you because they're on lockdown. That shows they're not righteous. They're no different than non-Muslim men. That's why I'm telling y'all, block them. Just put them on block. Okay? So, you know, this verse 177 of Surah Baqarah emphasizes that as Muslims, it's not just about being like the Christians were. They just pray. They go to church on Sunday and worship who they claim to be their Lord. But then after church, they go out and rob, steal, fornicate, adulterate. No. You know, it's not just about praying. We're ethical in our behavior. We're just in our interactions with each other. And also our character is supposed to be pleasing to Allah. Okay? Prayer is an anchor, is our spiritual anchor. Patience is our spiritual anchor. And that's what Allah speaks about when you look at verse 239 of this chapter. Allah instructs us to meticulously observe the prayer, especially the Asr prayer, because it comes in the middle of the day where it's easy for us to overlook it because of our work, because of our schools and all of that. Okay? Prayer is the anchor. It's what keeps us connected to Allah. Okay? We can never neglect it, not for work. Even if we're fighting in a war, there's a prayer that we perform. Even if we're traveling, we can shorten the prayers and combine them. Okay? But we never neglect our prayers, and we're always supposed to be patient. As Allah tells us in this verse, strive for Allah with the striving that's due to Him, because He has chosen you and has not placed upon you in the religion any difficulty. Okay? So as you can see, these verses are speaking about the sanctity of life, and also how our life is supposed to be one of righteousness and goodness, of course, anchored to Him. As Ibn al-Uthaymeen, who was one of the great scholars of our time who died in the early 2000s, as he said, the guideline on what constitutes hardship is that which prevents one from focusing properly. Proper focus means having presence of mind and being at ease. If you're praying, if it's too hard to stand, then you can pray sitting down. And if it's too hard to pray sitting, then you can pray lying down, etc., etc. Allah didn't make this religion hard on us. In times of war, there's a certain type of prayer we do, such as the fear prayer. Like I said, if we're traveling, we can combine and shorten. Allah made this religion easy for us. We make it hard on ourselves. Okay? Now, ethical consumption for physical and spiritual well-being. Allah speaks about that in verses 172 and 173. These verses underscore the significance of partaking in lawful and pure sustenance while staying away from those things that are detrimental to us, such as intoxicants and gambling. Allah wants what's best for us. So Allah is the creator of everything. He tells us what's good for us and what's bad. Gambling, intoxicants, and like alcohol, drugs, this stuff is bad for us, even though it may have some good in it. So Allah's guidance encourages us to make choices that support us physically and spiritually as well. And in these times of estrangement, and especially living in non-Muslim countries like America and Canada and Australia and South Africa, the risk of consuming things that are unlawful and impure is increased. So we have to be careful, what we put in our bodies and what we take in. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us in an authentic hadith, "O people, Allah is good and does not accept anything except that which is good. And Allah has enjoined upon the believers that which he has joined upon all the prophets. He says, O you prophets, eat of the lawful and do good deeds, and I am aware of what you do." So nothing that we do, it escapes the knowledge of Allah. And Allah is good and only likes that which is good. So make sure that we are careful what we put in our bodies. Like I was telling you guys earlier in my 630 class, you know that hemp oil is haram. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that there is no cure in anything that Allah made haram. This medical marijuana stuff is garbage. There's no cure for your migraine headaches by smoking marijuana. Marijuana is no cure for your cancer. It's no cure for your leukemia. Hemp oil is no cure for your arthritis. It doesn't take away the pain. All it does is make you high. It takes your mind off of the pain because it intoxicates you. So the Prophet tells us to stay away from that stuff. It's haram. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam tells us Allah is good. Don't put things that are unlawful in our body, because the bad that's in these things outweigh anything that may be good in it. So why are we Muslims still messing around with drugs? Why are we messing with cannabis? Why are we messing with hemp oil? Why are we messing with marijuana and opium and all of these drugs when these things are bad for us? Allah is going to hold us accountable for that. And these verses of the Quran are the proof that we know better, but we choose to reject what Allah is saying. And also, when we look at this chapter, verses 177, 215, 267 through 281, Allah speaks about our financial ethics and our social responsibilities. The teachings on charity and fair and equitable financial transactions. Here we can see Allah is spotlighting our Islamic commitments to community welfare. These instructions promote ethical and economical behaviors that protect both the individual and the wider community. Giving in zakat. If everyone would do zakat as we're supposed to, and instead of sending your zakat overseas, your zakat is supposed to go to the Muslims in your community. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the people deserving of your zakat is the people in your city. If we would give zakat to the Muslims in our city, then there would be no poor Muslims anywhere on this planet. But we're not doing that. We're sending our zakat overseas when it shouldn't be. And then most of us are not even paying the zakat as we should. But if we would honor our commitment to Allah, our obligation to Allah by doing the zakat properly, then we wouldn't have poor and needy Muslims like we have. But we're not doing that. Subhanallah. And then we get into the verses 178 through 179 of Surah Baqarah. These verses emphasize the sanctity of justice in life, because they speak about qisas, which is retribution, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. What happens if a person takes a life unjustly? Like I told you guys, anyone who declares La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah, their life, their honor, their property is off limits. You take my life, a life for a life. I can demand a life for your life for my life. Okay? So these segments of Surah Baqarah offer deep insights into a life that cherishes and protects the self and the soul. And by adhering to these precepts, Muslims are inspired to live lives that protect their personal well-being and contribute constructively to society's fabric, exemplifying the virtues of justice, compassion, and devoutness. It's no wonder why in Muslim countries, crimes like murder and rape are lower than in non-Muslim countries, because qisas is something you don't want to deal with. An eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And then we get to the third necessity, which is the progeny. Protecting your progeny, which is a pivotal principle in Islamic teachings. This is where marriage and family comes into play. These are verses 221 through 225 of Surah Baqarah, where they speak about marriage, divorce, and these things. For example, divorce is lawful in Islam, and everything that Allah made lawful is good and clean. If the marriage doesn't work out, after both parties try to work it out and it doesn't work out, then divorce is good and clean. But Surah Baqarah outlines a compassionate approach to divorce, focusing on fairness, patience, and the possibility of reconciliation. It stipulates clear procedures. There's pillars of divorce, just like there's pillars of marriage. There's rights that women have and rights that men have to divorce. And this ensures that both parties, especially the children, are protected from undue harm, and thus preserve the well-being of the progeny, even in the event of separation. And also in these verses 180 through 182 and verses 240 through 241, the ethical financial practices are laid down by Allah. Financial stability and ethical dealings, because these are another cornerstone of progeny protection. Inheritance, the laws and rules of inheritance, the economic rights of divorced women. These are vital aspects of establishing a commitment to wealth distribution and financial dignity for the family members. So Allah outlines what those rights and things are. Also within this chapter, verses 222 through 223, they speak about intimacy. The guidelines for intimacy between the spouses are emphasized. Respect, mutual consent, and the observance of ethical boundaries. This is what makes a relationship built on principles. And this is what upholds the sanctity of the family unit. And it contributes to a secure and nurturing environment for the progeny. Also included are rules and guidelines for breastfeeding, which can be found in verse 233. The emphasis on breastfeeding, it highlights the importance of providing children with both physical sustenance and also emotional bonding during their formative years. And this plays a crucial role in the healthy development of progeny and offers them a strong start in life. And then finally, we go into verse 234, which speaks about how even in the event of widowhood, say a woman is married and her husband dies, how she is to be supported. Widows have to be supported too, so that they're not left vulnerable. So Allah mentions the period of waiting for them to ensure that their rights are respected. So this proves how Islam protects the dignity and the well-being of surviving spouses and the progeny. SubhanAllah, Allah didn't leave nothing out. So as we can see, this latter part of Surah Baqarah gives a deep framework of how to protect your family, how to protect the rights of life, how to protect the rights of society and the people within it, and all of that. So when you read these latter parts of Surah Baqarah, you can see that our way of life, Islam, is not a man-made way of life. This way of life is divinely inspired by Allah. The Quran is not the creation of Allah. The Quran are the words of Allah telling us how to live our lives. Allah knows what's best for us, guys. So he put us here on this earth, told us what our purpose is. He sent his words down, telling us how to live our lives, how to make the best of our lives here. All we have to do is learn what he said, stick to what he said. Don't allow Shaitan and his denizens to pull us away from that. That's the key to success here. So I'm going to stop.